Okay, had a little a little audio issue there. Um, Lowdown Nation, uh, thank you for being back with us tonight. Tonight is episode 28 of the Lowdown with Matt, and it is my pleasure to have with me Mr. Drew. I hope I'm not butchering your last name, Hausman,
Perfect.
uh, of the band Echo Pilot, based up in Nashville, Tennessee. How you doing tonight, Drew?
Doing great, man. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. I've been, like I said before we went live, I've been looking forward to this all week.
Same.
So, so just getting down to the matters at hand here. Drew, how long have you been playing bass?
Bass specifically, I've been playing about 10 years. I played guitar for about 5 before that, so the switch wasn't too bad. Yeah.
Gotcha. Like we were talking about, I guess we're both converted guitarists.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
But so's Paul McCartney. So's Carol
Oh yeah.
Kay. We're in good company. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, at any point, have you taken lessons, or are you pretty much self-taught? How has that gone?
I took guitar lessons. I don't think I've ever actually taken a bass lesson. Um, I took piano and violin lessons when I was very, very young. But no, bass I think is the one instrument I haven't taken lessons on, and that's the one that stuck. So
Interesting.
yeah.
Interesting. So aside from guitar and bass, do you play any other instruments?
Um, Not well. I sort of know my way around a piano. I sort of know my way around a drum set. Um, uh yeah, that not anything as well as guitar, and definitely not anything as well as bass.
Gotcha,
Mm.
gotcha. As far as your personal playing style goes, are you a finger style player, or do you use a pick, or is it a situational thing?
Definitely a situational thing. Um, yeah, it kind of just depends on what I think the song calls for. With Echo Pilot, the band I'm playing with most these days, just as an example, um, if if the song needs John Paul Jones or my best version of John Paul Jones, I'm gonna play with my fingers. If it needs Mike Dirnt from Green Day, I'm gonna play with a pick.
Gotcha.
It kind of just and sometimes I sort of waffle back and forth. We have one song where I start with a pick and then I drop the pick and play finger style, and then the end of the song I'm slapping the whole time. So it's really just whatever the situation calls for.
Nice, nice. Um, so, uh, you know, it's funny, being a converted guitarist.
Mm.
I have really, I haven't really given it a ton of effort, but uh, finger style for me is very difficult because I'm so used to having a pick.
Yeah.
I just, I'm working on it, but finger style has really been a struggle for me.
So I have a couple responses to that. I totally
Okay.
hear what you're saying because I also started as a guitarist, and the first 4 or 5 years I played bass, it was all with a pick.
Hmm.
Because like you said, that's just what felt natural to me. It's just what made sense to me.
Right.
Um, and I love pick bass. And people think pick bass is exclusively for like metal or punk
Metal.
or whatever.
Yeah. It
No,
doesn't have to
it's
be.
Bobby Vega. If anyone watching, if you don't know Bobby Vega, go look him up. He plays with a pick, and he's like the funkiest guy I've ever heard. The other side, the reason why I started playing with my fingers, a good buddy of mine named Kevin, who was the singer in one of my old bands, um, is a huge Wolfpack fan. You know Wolfpack?
Hmm.
Yeah, and their bassist Joe Dart always plays with his fingers and is just unbelievable. And Kevin used to always kind of tease me that I couldn't play Wolfpack songs right, and that was just out of spite. That was why I started practicing with my fingers. So
You
maybe
took
that's
up
not
the you
right.
took up the
Exactly.
challenge. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Maybe that's not the most psychologically healthy thing, but it got me there. So
Hey, whatever works, you know.
right. Exactly.
So, tell me a bit about your current gear and your live setup. What do you play? What do you play through? Any pedal boards, that kind of thing.
Sure. Yeah. Should I start with basses or go right to pedal?
Start with the bases and just go as you feel led.
Let's do it. All right, so my main bass, and this is the one I use with Echo Pilot. This is American Performer Precision Bass.
She's beautiful.
Thank you, man. I'm real happy with it. It's got the P pickup, it's got the J pickup, which I think is just hands down the best pickup combination. I also, just about a month ago, I installed a Hipshot D tuner there for just quickly dropping to drop D, right?
Nice.
Which is it's just such a lifesaver. Yeah, Echo Pilot recently started. Our singer Ryan has started writing a lot in the key of D the past few months. So that was a necessity, especially for live stuff, where the song ends and just bip, and you're just into the next one, which is amazing.
Right.
I also have, this is another pretty recent acquisition. This is the Squire Paranormal Rascal HH something. I don't know.
Okay.
It came out, I think they released it in the past year or so. I watched a bunch of reviews, Low End Lobster and all those guys. And they were all giving it like 5 out of 5, pretty much across the board. And I needed a good short scale, so I figured, I should get my hands on it. But yeah, short scale, it's about 30 inches, I think. I have Labella flat wounds on here, which I think are the best bass string ever made. Yeah, man, I love it. This thing is just a joy to play. It's like a go-kart.
The color is very striking.
Yes, yeah. They make it in black, and then they make it in like a kind of like a pale pink. And I don't know. This was the one I gravitated to. But. What else we got? As far as amps go, I have a couple Fender Rumbles. I have a 100 that I just leave in our rehearsal space, which is just loud enough for that room. I have a Fender Rumble 15 right down here, actually, which I just use for practicing. For gigging,
that's what I've got, actually.
Yeah, it's great. It
is.
Yeah,
and it will, for its size, it will surprisingly fill a room with sound.
Yeah, so. Totally. I'm a big fan of practicing through crappy amps, because you have to work harder to get a good sound, and then when you plug into a real amp, then it's just elevated that much more, I think. As far as gigging goes, I don't even remember the last time I brought an amp to a gig. Most venues around Nashville will have a pretty good setup, either a Rumble 500 or an Ampeg, whatever, or
that makes sense.
Nashville
being what it is.
Exactly. Yeah. And then when we're on the road, we've gotten pretty lucky with people just willing to let me use their amp. Which is such a lifesaver. But and as far as pedals go, for my current board, I try to keep it as like lean as possible. I have a tuner, which is a tuner,
gotta
have
that.
Right, exactly. Yeah, but there's nothing like special, I have, I think it's called I could just look, it's right behind me, the MXR Bass Dynacomp Mini, I think, which is just a compressor pedal. And then I have the Ampeg SCR DI, which is basically like an Ampeg amp sim, pretty much. It's got the DI, it's got the ground lift, it's got EQ, it's got an overdrive circuit. That thing is worth its weight in gold. Man, that thing does like half the work for me, I swear. It sounds so good, like the second you plug it in. It's amazing.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, the low effort little technological tweaks are just such a godsend.
Yep.
I mean,
yep.
So
yeah. Sean Hurley, I think, who I'm a huge fan of, in an interview a while back, said something like, the best advice he could give to bassists is let the amp do the work. Like, you don't need to do all that much, especially if you're on a real stage with a real sound system. just let it fill the room, right? You don't need
Yeah.
to dazzle people. Just let the thing do its thing, which I think is such great advice.
Yep. Let the thing do its thing. That's great.
Write it in stone. Yep.
Yep. Yep. So, do you have any personal preference between 4 and 5 or even greater string count basses?
4 I think is the most practical for what I do, anyways.
Mhm.
I had a 5-string for a while. It was like a made in Mexico like Fender Jazz 5-string, I think.
Mhm.
And it was okay. It was really heavy and really poorly balanced. Um, and the low B string is just kind of a fart if at
Gotcha.
that scale length, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, I've been looking a lot at multi-scale basses, Dingwall especially, which are they're just the coolest instruments on the planet, I swear. Um, I can't quite justify spending the money on a 5-string right now,
Right.
but maybe someday, man. I would, yeah. I think they're so cool. But yeah, if I had to choose one, I would go 4.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Yeah, I've my first bass was a Dean 4-string that, like I said, my wife and son got me,
Yeah,
and then I've since then I've picked up an Ibanez 5-string that I just adore.
really cool.
That thing is so light, and
Really,
it's
huh.
shockingly light,
Yeah,
and Ibanez guitars, in my view anyway, play just amazingly well, and this thing is just a dream.
man.
So I mean, my Ibanez 5-string is kind of my go-to bass.
Yeah,
And then I've also got a Fender acoustic bass that I really don't do a lot with, but it gives me options,
sure. Yeah.
So
And that's kind of the name of the game, I feel, is that I try to only buy gear if it's something I know I'll use for a specific thing. Do you know what I
right,
mean? Like
yeah,
having an acoustic bass, like now you know that's a sound you can get.
right,
You know, if a songwriter or a producer or whatever needs an acoustic bass, you're the guy. You know.
yeah, yep. So musicians have a tendency to collect gear,
Yes.
and um, do you have anything really unique or unusual in your gear arsenal that you'd like to talk about? It's fine if you don't, but if you've got something weird or just something unique.
Yeah. It's not a bass. Is that okay?
Oh yeah, yeah,
Okay. Give me one
absolutely.
sec.
Okay.
Okay. So this is a Gibson Les Paul. This was my 18th birthday present to myself,
Oh,
um,
cool.
which I got before I started playing bass. It was about a year before I started playing bass.
Hmm.
This thing is, I'm biased just because it's what I'm used to. I think it's the best feeling guitar I've ever played, but it's also the lightest Les Paul I've ever held by maybe 5 or 6 pounds. This thing is so light. It's like unbelievably light,
Wow.
which is so weird for Les Paul because I think they're usually like 12 pounds or 11 pounds or something like that. This has got to be
Yeah,
7
those are
maybe.
heavy guitars usually.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're way too heavy. The other weird thing is I have, okay, so this is a 2012, this guitar.
Hmm.
Um, Gibson started keeping an online public database of serial numbers in 2013. So I can't look up this guitar in their database. It's a year too early, just 1 year too early. So I have
Interesting.
no idea what this guitar actually is.
Hmm.
Like I know it's a Gibson Les Paul, obviously, but I don't know
Right.
like the model or the line or the any of that stuff. So I've been meaning to take it into the Gibson garage here in Nashville and just
Hmm.
handing it to the guy and saying, "Hey, what the hell is this thing?" and see what he says.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess that's the most unique thing I have, I suppose.
Well, Again, you have very good taste in color and finish for your instruments. I love the colors that you
Thank you,
have.
sir. Appreciate
Yeah,
it.
yeah. So, I always ask this to my bass player guests just because it just strikes me as kind of a funny question.
Hmm.
And how often do you change strings?
It varies. I keep round wounds on my P bass, and those I tend to change every 3 to 6 months, maybe.
Hmm.
I usually try to coordinate that with if I know I have some recording I'm doing soon or I'm gigging a lot soon. I try to do it a month before that.
Gotcha.
So, for flat wounds, I I like to see how long I can go without changing them.
Right.
I like to think of flats as like a cast iron skillet. Like the more you use it, the better it gets,
Exactly.
kind of
Yeah.
deal. Yeah. So the labellas I have on the Squire, maybe 6 months old at this point, and they sound better every day. I think so. I'm gonna see how long I can take it, but
Gotcha.
yeah.
I like I said, I always ask that simply because bass strings are not cheap.
Oh
And
no, they're
you
not.
practically have to take out a second mortgage to restring your bass. I mean, um, I have never actually played with flat wounds. So
Oh, dude,
uh,
it's a game changer.
really,
It's
I'll
Yeah, the longer I play, the more I prefer flats. I kind of think of it like, okay, I'm getting very heady now, if that's okay.
oh, go ahead.
I like to think of the bass guitar as literally a cross between an upright bass and an electric guitar, right?
Mhm.
And the different approaches you take to that will either lean more upright bass or more electric guitar. I think playing with a pick is more guitar, playing with your fingers is more bass. I think
Right.
round wounds are more guitar, flat wounds are more upright bass. And you can get into tone woods and all that stuff as well. But
Right. Right.
that's how I like to think of it.
So, Drew, who are some of your personal musical influences?
Sure. Um Bassists specifically
Uh,
or
Anybody,
oh man.
just who do you find yourself influenced by?
Um my earliest influences, like the bands that were making me want to start playing in bands.
Hmm.
The Beatles come to mind. I was, raised on the Beatles, so that's hardwired into my DNA at this point. Green Day was a huge, huge, huge influence for me, especially 14, 15 years old, which is when I first started, really getting into it. Um, Tenacious D actually around that time as well was very. I'm a
Jack
huge.
Black.
I love Jack Black. Oh, man, I have nothing bad to say about Jack. So yeah, that was also a big thing. Um, Nowadays, I don't know. I'm trying to think of the bassists who really inspire me. There's a guy named Sam Wilkes who's not super well known. He's played with Scary Pockets. He's played with Lewis Cole. Um, he tends to sort of fly under the radar, but I really, really admire that guy's playing. Who else? Yeah, I mean James Jamerson, of course.
Hmm.
Um, John Taylor from Duran Duran
Yeah.
is oh man, that dude just absolutely rips. Um, Mike Dirnt, Pino Palladino, the P bass guys mainly. I feel like whenever I give a list, it's just all P bass players for whatever reason.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, lately I have really been a huge fan of John Mayung from Dream Theater.
Oh, of course.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, he is just otherworldly. I
Yes.
mean,
Um,
all of
Justin
those
Chance.
guys are.
Yes.
Oh yeah, Justin Chancellor.
Justin Chancellor. I've been getting into Tool the past few months. Oh my
Hmm.
god, it's unbelievable how those guys play. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. So, what was the very first concert you ever attended as a fan?
Oh. Uh, I I should clarify. Both of my parents teach music or used to. My dad was retired, but they both are musicians and music teachers, have been for their careers. So I went to a lot of like student recitals and that sort of thing.
Hmm.
So I guess that is technically the first concerts I went to. Um, the first concert in the way you mean that I went to would be Warp Tour 2009, I think. Who was playing? Alkaline Trio was playing, All American Rejects, Sum 41. I'd have to look up
Good,
the rest. Those are the ones that come to mind.
good lineup.
It was a really good yeah, yeah. I had a buddy in high school who I ended up being in a band with a few years later, who was a little older than me and knew all the cool bands. And
Hmm.
I looked up to him so much. Malcolm, my friend Malcolm. Um, and I remember him saying, like, man, there's this thing called Warp Tour where it's like 100 bands and they just tour the country. You gotta check it out with me this year. And I was like, all right, let's do it.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, a couple of years ago, I had the pleasure of taking my son to his first rock show.
Nice.
Here in the Atlanta area, we ended up going to see Slipknot
Oh,
with Ice Nine Kills and a couple of other more up and coming bands. But
yeah.
it was a great show,
Yeah.
you know.
I bet.
So that
And
was
that
neat.
first show, I mean, everyone remembers their first show.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Even if it wasn't, I have a few friends who their first show is something they're like embarrassed by now, but they still have such fond memories of that show. You know what I mean? Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny.
What I'm going to do real quick is take a glance over at the Instagram tab and just see what's going on in the chat over there.
Oh, absolutely. Please.
Let's see here. We've got a lot of folks.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, we've got looks like AM Smith
Oh,
86 saying that's my boy.
that's
Uh,
Aaron.
go-
He's
oh, okay.
the other guitarist in Echo Pilot. Yeah.
Oh,
Hey,
nice,
buddy.
nice. He says killer tasty player, and and Rebecca says spite is a great motivator,
Agreed.
referring to what you were talking about earlier.
Yep. Yep. Agreed. It's got me
Let's,
places in this life.
yep. So let's see here. Okay. So um, over the course of your musical journey and musical career, have you had a chance to meet any of your musical heroes?
Um, I don't think so. Not really. Not in like the traditional sense of someone who I've listened to for years and then I got to meet. Um, I met the guys in Alkaline Trio at Warp Tour. I paid $30 for a T-shirt and then waited in line for 20 minutes for
Meet and
a
greet?
yeah,
Yeah,
for an illegible signature on the shirt. I think that's at my parents' house somewhere.
gotcha.
Um,
You should get it and frame it or something.
I should sell it is what I should do.
Well, yeah.
Right, yeah. Matt Skiba, I think, is the guy's name.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, but no, I don't think I've yeah, I don't know. I wish I had a good anecdote there, but I don't think I do.
That's cool. That's
Yeah,
cool.
someday.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure it'll come. So, away from music, Drew, what are some of your hobbies and interests?
Sure. Um, I try to read as much as I can. Um, my girlfriend and I
Anything,
have
anything in particular you like to read?
um, not really. I like science fiction. I really like Kurt Vonnegut,
Hmm.
Alan Moore. Um, big graphic novel guy as well. If you know, for the right thing, for the right mood. Um, right now, I'm rereading American Gods, Neil Gaiman.
Oh
It's
yeah.
a favorite of mine. Yeah. Um, yeah. Other than that, what else? I don't know. I like to cook. I used to be a cocktail bartender, so the occasional cocktail. That's still a hobby of mine. Um, yeah.
You
I don't
were
know. I'm
saying
kind of boring.
you were saying something about you and your girlfriend.
Oh, we've gotten into cooking. lately.
Oh,
It's
okay.
neither
That's
of us
cool.
used to cook much, and now we're trying to more. That's all really though. No, it's
That's
the
cool.
most interesting thing about me is that I'm in a band. Honestly, I'm pretty boring outside of that.
So, what we're going to do now for people who aren't familiar with Echo Pilot, I was going to play about the first minute or so. I found one of y'all's live performances on YouTube, so I was going to play about the first minute of it just to give
Cool.
folks a taste. So
Sweet.
I'm going to share my screen, and we'll go ahead and do that.
Let's do it. Oh yeah. Yeah. This is a good one.
Really, really like that performance. You are a very energetic player.
Thank you.
you
Yeah, so
you
I've
look
been
like
told.
you're having a ball up there.
I try to. I think that's probably the Green Day influence from such a young
Mhm.
age. Just because those guys are always like animals on stage. Um,
Right.
I don't know. It's like the one time in your life when you can really act like a jackass, and it's not just okay, it's better. I think is when you're
It's
on stage.
encouraged. Yeah,
So right, exactly. Yeah, it improves the experience for everyone. So I try to show people how much fun I'm having.
absolutely. So out of curiosity, what are you sipping on?
Oh, water.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
I've
straight
got
tequila.
some. I've got some actually some tea going. I've
Oh, nice.
got a friend. Actually, it's my wife introduced me to him. His name's Bubble. He runs a tea company over in India called Seven Essence.
Oh, wow.
My wife is a complete tea head,
Yeah,
and so she's turned me on to a lot of different teas. And so I'm drinking some Seven Essence Autumn Mezzanine tonight, and it's quite good.
nice.
So yeah, yeah.
I'll check it out. Yeah.
So, tell me a bit about Echo Pilot. You know, how long have you guys been together? How did the band form? Where did the name come from? You know, stuff like that.
So this might not be the answer you're looking for. I was not part of the original lineup.
That's fine.
Yeah. So the band originally formed, I think, 5 or 6 years ago. I want to say. Um, Ryan, our singer, is the only remaining original member. Um, it's the whole thing is kind of his. He's the Dave Grohl of the band. He's very much the front man in every sense. Um, I joined a little over a year ago, maybe 14. No, year and a half ago. I don't know, something like that. Um, Jack Black rocks. Yes, agreed. um, uh, where did the name come from? I've asked Ryan that before. I don't think he really knows. I think it's just one of those. He just heard the words come out of his mouth and was like, "Yeah, that'll do." Um, I don't think he's not a pilot by trade. I don't think he knows any pilots, any actual pilots. But I don't know. He might have a better answer
Gotcha.
than that.
Gotcha. So, do you play yourself in any other bands or side projects?
Yes, I'm in a band that's still sort of getting its feet off the ground. We've only been playing for about 6 months, called Swoon,
Hmm.
which is myself and a few of the other teachers at the school where I teach. Um, very much sort of pop rock. Someone described us as Bruce Springsteen meets Taylor Swift one time.
Interesting.
I'll take it. Yeah,
Yeah.
two of the biggest artists of all time. Yeah, I'll take that.
Yeah. Why
Um,
not?
so yeah, that's that we're in the process of demoing some songs and starting to book some gigs. But that's a lot of fun. That is yeah, very very different from Echo Pilot in terms of sound and in terms of band dynamic and how the songs come to be and all that stuff. So yeah, so that's a lot of fun as well.
Very cool. Well, bass players, as you know, are basically in a partnership of sorts with the drummer as the rhythm section of the band. Tell me a bit about your relationship with the drummer and Echo Pilot. What do you guys do to lock in with each other?
Yeah,
How does that relationship go?
he's a son of a gun, that guy. No, I'm kidding. No, he's great. He's great. Dan is his name, Dan Russell. He's been in the band 6 months or so, I think. Um, I like to think the more you play an instrument, you don't just get better at the instrument, but the longer you play with a person, you get better at playing with that person. You know,
Hmm.
you sort of either consciously or subconsciously, you sort of get a feel for their feel, I guess, for lack of a better way to put it. Um, Dan is so great because he's so locked. He's what's the dude from the Police, the drummer from the Police?
Copeland, Stuart Copeland.
Yes, he's very Stuart Copeland. He's very Rush. He's very Danny Carey, where everything is. And so there's that aspect to it where he's very locked and he's very definitive. Every sentence that he plays ends with a period. Which is
Yeah.
nice. Um, but also on top of that, he'll throw in a different fill. He'll try something out in practice. He'll try something new out on stage sometimes. Um, and it's nice that he's very easy to trust, right? That
Hmm.
when he goes into this crazy, 5-beat fill at the end of a phrase before we go into the chorus or whatever it is, we're all kind of jumping off the cliff with him. And I can trust that he's going to land us safely. You know what I mean? Which
Hmm.
is such a great thing to have in a drummer because I have definitely played with some drummers in my life where you don't really know what they're going to do next. And
Right.
that's tough. That's tough for everyone. But if any of my drummer friends are watching this, they're gonna think I'm talking about them. I'm not talking about you. Um, I when I first moved to town, I was doing a lot of freelance gigs, and it's a lot of no rehearsal. You show up, shake hands, and plug in, and yeah. Anyways,
Gotcha. Gotcha. So tell me a bit about the songwriting process within Echo Pilot. Is there a primary writer within the band, or is it a collaborative thing? How does that work?
um, kind of all the above. Ryan is definitely the main songwriter. He's written over 90% of the stuff we've done. Mainly just because he's been in the band longest, but also he started the band. He's the one who sort of understands the intent best, I guess.
Hmm.
Um, but when usually how it goes is Ryan will have maybe 50 to 80% of a song written, and he'll bring it in, and then we'll all kind of feel it out together and move things around and rearrange parts and all that stuff. And honestly, that guy, he doesn't really get done writing until we're in the studio and we're recording,
Hmm.
and we have to say, okay, this is a definitive. He's still making little tweaks and moving things around and stuff like that. Um, just because the songwriting is such a high priority for him, for all of us, really. Um, but he's also very, very open to other people bringing stuff in. We had rehearsal last night, and I brought in a riff that I've been playing around with. Our guitarist Aaron brought in a riff that we ended up finishing. I think I think he had a few power chordy riffs, and then by the end of the night, it was a very power chordy 2-minute punk song. So yeah, it works out.
Moments like that are really cool, where
Yes.
things just kind of fall into place like
It
that.
just
That's
clicks.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah,
And it's a good sign that you're playing with the right people.
absolutely,
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So is Echo Pilot anything approaching a full-time thing? If it isn't, tell me about your air quotes day job.
Sure. That is definitely the goal for Echo Pilot. I think for all four of us.
Hmm.
Um, we all like our jobs enough, I think, but none of it beats being in the band, you
Right.
know? Um, so I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to be quitting my job in the next year or so, probably. But ideally, yeah, we would like to. And we're making. That's the nice thing about Nashville is that everybody knows somebody.
Right.
So we've gotten to meet, let's just say, industry people. I'll leave it vague. Um, yeah, and make some connections and get some people to come out to shows and yeah.
Always a good
So
thing.
always, oh man, boy is it.
Yeah,
So yeah, fingers crossed. Hopefully, in the next few years, hopefully things will start picking up in that way. Um, but you never know. I try to be as grateful as I can for the moment, and the fact that I get to be in a kick-ass band and I have food on the table and a roof over my head. That's kind of
yeah,
enough. So yeah,
absolutely. So what is your day job?
sure. I teach part-time at School of Rock. Is the chain.
Oh, nice.
Speaking of
Yeah,
Jack Black, brought
yeah.
it back around. Yep. Um, which is great. I taught at one in Ohio before I moved down to Nashville. And then I moved here and started teaching straight away. I was able to line up the job straight away when I moved here, which is great. Um, and it's good. I mean, I love the other teachers I get to work with. Most of the kids are really great. Obviously, some of them are pretty annoying.
Yeah,
But that's, it comes with the territory. But it's good, man.
right.
But like I said, both of my parents teach music, so it's a little weird. It's a little uncanny how much I'm turning out like mom and dad. But
Yeah.
I guess that's to be expected. I don't know.
And ultimately it's usually not a bad thing. I
No,
mean,
no, not at all, not at all.
so
They got a good thing going.
oh yeah. Yeah. So, if you can narrow it down to one or two little anecdotes, what have been some of the most interesting experiences that you've had playing live, Drew?
Uh, okay, one story comes to mind. Uh,
Okay.
this was my college band, who are called the Interns, with three of my best friends in the world. Um, we used to get invited to, I don't know exactly what it was. It was like a Christian youth group, like retreat center or something. But it's really, really nice facility with big flat screen TVs and foosball tables and a huge stage with a nice sound system, lighting rig, all that stuff. Um, we were not a Christian band at all.
Hmm.
I'm Jewish. Our drummer's atheist. I think the other two guys were Catholic, but they weren't really religious. Um, but it was a good gig and there was a good turnout. So they kept asking us, so we kept playing it, right? Um, and then there was one night where it was us and I think the other three bands were all Christian rock bands, which we
Hmm.
didn't really think much about. Whatever, it's a Christian place. We didn't really
Right.
think about it. We're up first. We're sort of setting up, and the crowd is massive. It's the biggest crowd we've ever seen, and we're all, we're backstage warming. We're so excited. We get on stage, plug in, tune up. We rip into our first song. We're all killing it. We're on fire, we're jumping around the stage, all that. And we finish the song, and the room is silent. I don't mean like unenthusiastic golf clap. I mean
Like
silence.
crickets. Yeah.
Crickets. Absolutely. Yeah. It was wild. I've never, and we all kind of looked at each other like, what is going on? And okay, we go into the next song. Basically nothing the whole set. We don't know. Well, okay, here's what we do know. The other three bands go up and the crowd goes wild for all three of them, goes insane. I don't know this. I think somehow word got out that we were not a Christian rock band, and somehow the crowd decided that that was what they wanted to hear that night. And if we were not that, they were not having it. I don't know if that was the case. Look, more power to them. It was still a very fun show, but
Oh yeah.
it was. I've played for unenthusiastic crowds, but that was the only time I've played for a
Silence.
crowd. Yeah, they didn't seem to realize we were up there. It was wild. Yeah.
Interesting. Interesting. So, what is your favorite Echo Pilot song to play live?
Oh boy. The one in the video you pulled up, Out of Ordinary,
Hmm.
that one's always a blast. It's all the things that I think make Echo Pilot great. If I can sort of toot my own horn, it's loud and fast and aggressive, but it's also weird and kind of off kilter and not quite what you expect. There are some vocal harmonies that come out about halfway through that are much sort of like sweeter than the rest of the song, and yeah, it's changing keys and changing grooves and all that stuff. And yeah, if I had to pick one, it might be that one. Yeah.
So, before you guys go on live, do you have any pre-show traditions? Any things that you try to consistently do before you go on live?
As a band, not really. We'll there's utilitarian stuff. We'll look at the set list and we'll talk about transitions and
Right.
okay, if we need to cut a song, we'll cut this one and we'll decide here if we need it, that kind of thing. As far as traditions go, not really. I always go to the bathroom before I go on stage. I wash my face, that kind of thing.
That's always good policy.
Yeah, right.
You know?
Exactly. Yeah. I used to be in a band. I'm not going to say the name. And I still love these guys. They had this tradition. They had this stuff. They just called it the elixir, which I think was tequila and iced tea in like a thermos. And they would pass
Okay.
around. We'd all have a swig, and it was just vile. So I'm glad Echo Pilot doesn't do anything like that. You're just going on stage, just trying to choke this stuff down. It was not
The elixir.
yeah. Look, I love those guys, and if they're watching, they'll know I'm talking about them. But that was not the best part of being in that band.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure. So, not to obviously put any others down, but do you have a particular favorite venue that you enjoy playing at?
Oh, sure. There are two spots in Nashville that come to mind. One is called the Basement,
Okay.
which is pretty well known around town. We've gotten to play there. We're really lucky. We've gotten to play there 4 or 5 times, something like that, which is very cool. It's always a good turnout. I just love that place. It's funny. It's not the best stage. It's not the biggest room. It's not the best sound system, but there's just something about it that when you're playing there, you just feel like, all right, yeah, I'm doing something here.
Nice.
Then there's another spot in East Nashville called the Underdog that is just the diviest dive bar you've ever seen. It is just such a hole in the wall piece of crap place. But every time we play there, it is the best crowd.
Mm-hmm.
Just something about it. People are just so excited to be there seeing a band when we play there. So that's always really great as well.
Some of the little hole in the wall places have the most loyal clientele, though, that are just gonna really bring the energy to a show.
Yes.
So
Almost
yeah.
like it's like this is my safe place. Like it's not
This is
touched by everything else. Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah. And
Yeah.
the Underdog is very much that kind of place.
So, what would you say is overall your favorite thing about Nashville?
Oh wow. I mean, it's a cliche answer, but it's just the amount of music happening here.
Mhm.
It's why I moved here originally, and yeah, it's just gigs just grow on trees. Yeah, everyone knows someone. It's Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's such a cliche answer that the best thing in Music City is the music, but I don't know. When I was playing in bands in Ohio, I loved it, and it was some of the best bands I've ever been in. But I felt like I had kind of like hit the ceiling of what I was going to be able to do there.
Right.
And then in Nashville, it's just I mean, the sky is the limit.
There is no ceiling. Yeah.
Right, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, so that's been really, really great and really sort of immediately rewarding.
Awesome.
So yeah.
So we're getting now to actually what has become. I've asked this question on all 28 of these, and
Yeah.
I love this question, and that is, if you could give, knowing everything you know now, if you could give any advice now to your younger self, what would it be?
Oh man. Um Music advice or just life
Just
advice in general?
life advice, music advice, whatever.
Oh man. Okay, life advice. Just stop looking for things to be upset about. You know, be grateful for what you have. If there's something you don't have, take steps towards it, but just don't make your entire personality the things wrong with you or the things wrong with your life. You know, um,
Wise
because
words.
yeah, I that was something I really in my late teens, early 20s, around college. That was something I really struggled with. It was always, yeah, I have this thing, but I could have that thing, which is just
Yeah.
such a pointless, you're just immediately running into a brick wall mindset. Anyways, music advice. Um, oh man, I don't know. Practice piano more, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. Whenever I teach music theory in my lessons, I always try to show it to the student on whatever the instrument they're playing is, and then also on piano. I
Right.
just think the visual cues of learning theory on piano. It just doesn't get simpler. And I when I was 10 or 11, I was a pretty good pianist, and now I can play a few songs, but I'm not. Yeah, so I wish I'd kept up with that. But
Gotcha.
yeah.
So, do you have any suggestions for any other, I guess, for lack of a better word, up and coming bands to either check out or potentially to reach out to do one of these live stream chats?
Oh man. Um okay. They don't have a bassist, but their guitarist was originally a bassist and he plays like a bassist. Does that count?
That's fine.
All right.
I've focused a lot on bassists, but
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not like dying on that hill. I'll
Okay.
talk to
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
anybody. I
Yeah.
mean,
Cool. Sweet. Yeah. There's a band we're good buddies with called Year of October.
Year of
Um,
October.
their
Okay.
guitarist's name is Josh Sullivan. Yeah, good friend of mine. Um, Unbelievable player, unbelievable band. And they're one of my few friends who are that band is their full-time job, which is very,
Nice.
very cool. So he could definitely tell you all about that. And then he just lovingly, the man loves to talk. So
Hmm.
if you let him go, he'll tell you everything. Yeah, yeah. So
Oh, cool.
yeah, I
Cool.
would definitely get in touch with him, and I'll send him your way.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you for the suggestion. I
of course. Yeah, of course.
definitely appreciate it.
Yeah.
And something else I've done in every one of these that's just been kind of fun is I have let the the person or people being interviewed pose a question for the next person in the hot seat.
Yes.
So last night I had this. They're actually a Christian rock band called Tricord.
Cool.
They're out of South Georgia, and they were my guests last night. They were a blast.
Yeah.
But so the question that they posed is, do you want to go on tour with Tricord?
Yeah, man. Yeah, let's
So,
do it. Let's go. Yeah, that sounds great.
yeah.
All right, great.
That's
Thanks for setting that up, Matt.
yeah. Who knows what it'll lead to.
Perfect.
So, since this is a series, is there a question that you would like to pose to the next person? And the next, my next guest, which is going to be Sunday night,
Okay.
I've got a two-man band out of Charlotte, North Carolina called Hellfire 76. They're
Cool.
basically kind of a southern rock, bluesy, almost, they call themselves stoner rock.
Yeah.
Um, and I actually had the privilege to see them play at a place not too far from here about a month and a half ago, and they were really good. So
Cool.
I'm actually excited to have them.
Yeah. Cool.
So anyway, is there a question you would like to pose to them?
I was gonna give you like a dumb joke question, but now I actually want to give him a good question.
Well,
Um,
give me both.
all right, great. What is the best sandwich?
Okay.
And um, what? Since there have been so many, you said they're a two-person band, right?
Yeah, it's a guitarist slash vocalist and a drummer.
Since there have been so many bands with that exact formula, Black Keys, White Stripes, Tenacious D, whatever it is. Um,
Right.
what is it that can be achieved by a two-person band that you can't get with more people? Do you know what I mean? Like
Interesting. But yeah,
what's special about two?
right.
Yeah, yeah. I'd be
I like,
interested to hear what they say.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So, what's your favorite sandwich?
uh, I think you should ask every guest that from now on.
Okay.
I'd
I will put that on the list.
yes, yes, we did it.
You have made a lasting impact on the Lowdown with Matt.
I'm honored.
Yeah,
I'd have to go Cubano.
nice.
I'd have to. Yeah, 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 yeah. They no one puts enough mustard on their Cubano, but I still have to say a Cubano. Love it.
So we're getting toward the end of things now. So do you guys have any upcoming shows or any new material coming out that you'd like to hype?
Yes. We don't have many shows booked at the moment. We're playing in Nashville on Broadway. John Bon Jovi is opening a bar,
Oh, cool.
which is great. So we are playing, or he just opened it, or say he opened it recently. We're playing on July 10 in sort of a band showcase where I think there's a bunch of different bands. We're only doing 4 or 5 songs.
Hmm.
But we've done a few of these where it's like 6 or 7 bands. Everyone goes up and plays for 20 minutes, and then it's just on to the next one, and it's a blast. So I'm very excited about this. And then we also just finished recording our second album.
Nice.
So we're sending that off to get mixed, hopefully in the next week or so. Yeah, and then we're hoping to start releasing singles in the fall. We're looking at
Hmm.
the song in the video you played, "Out of Ordinary," that will be on that record. So
Oh,
with
cool.
a bunch of other songs that are I'm so proud of and so happy with. So yeah,
Nice, nice. Well, something I'll let you know about is once a month I've started doing a new music spotlight show.
yeah,
And so, when you guys get ready to start releasing singles in the fall, I'd love to have you guys back on. We'll play the song in its entirety and basically let, one or more of you talk about the song, the meaning, the songwriting process, the
yeah,
recording process, that kind of thing. So, we'll stay in touch and,
yeah, man.
and in the fall, I'd love to have you guys back on to talk about the new stuff.
Let's do it. Let's do it. That sounds great.
So, well, anyway, we've pretty much gotten to the end of things now, but thank you so much for your time and for participating on here, Drew. This has been a blast.
Yeah, thank you, man.
And
Really, this has been great.
for those of you that are watching live, thank you. For those of you that are going to be watching on a replay later, thank you for that. If you like what we're doing here, spread the word and let's continue to grow this thing. I'm going to take one final look over at the Instagram tab and just see
Sure.
what's going on over there. Let's see. Not really a whole lot, but anyway, everybody have a great night and a safe, fun, and enjoyable weekend. And I'll be back live Sunday night at 7 p.m. with Hellfire 76. And